It was a lot of fun to actually put this together. So thanks again to Lee for asking me to come and speak to y'all about public history at UNA. I think I came in the fall of 2012 to actually speak to TVHS about what public history actually is. And we'll do a little bit of a recap of that in a minute. But it was a lot of fun to put this presentation together and really reflect on how the program has grown and developed over the last 13 years. It's pretty amazing what our students have been able to do in that time and how much they've contributed to the preservation of local history, helping at events as volunteers, internships, projects as graduate assistants. So they've really done a lot for history in Northwest Alabama, and so it was fun again to go back and really reflect on all of that. So I do get the question, what is public history, a lot. And essentially, public history is anything that happens outside of the classroom. So you are all public historians, right? Working to share and document the story of this region through the publication of the journal, through hosting events like this. Public history can be a presentation at a museum or an interpretive panel in a public park that talks about the history of the site. It can be an oral history interview. It can be a digital history project. So again, really anything that is taking history and sharing it outward to the general public. Most public historians that are academic public historians go through some kind of formal training. I have a master's in public history. My PhD's in traditional early American women's history, but there are a couple public history PhD programs now as well. Middle Tennessee State University has an exceptional one as well as an exceptional master's program. And during that training, public historians learn some of the key concepts of public history. One of the biggest ones is shared authority. So we're trained, we've got a lot of skills that we can put to good use in a community, but we don't try to go in and tell a community what is important to them, right? Or what stories they should be telling. We want to work with as many organizations, as many groups in a community to help them think about how they want to share their own story. It doesn't make you look good if you walk in and say, this is the story you have to tell. These are the ways that you have to tell it. And so that's a really important concept that really undergirds the work that we do as public historians. So the public history program at UNA started in the fall of 2012 and was really the result of a couple of factors that were sort of swirling about around that time. One of the most important pieces of that is the Muscle Shoals National Heritage Area. So the Muscle Shoals National Heritage Area was designated in 2009. And that was after about a 10-year-long period of people in the community working towards that designation. So the heritage area covers the 6 counties in Northwest Alabama. So all of the counties that are or were, in the case of Franklin County, connected to the Muscle Shoals stretch of the Tennessee River. And so it's recognized as a nationally significant landscape. So the heritage area, as they went through the process of imagining what the heritage area would be and what it would focus on and what it would look like, 3 main themes came to the top. So indigenous history, the history of the river, and Muscle Shoals music. So those are the 3 areas that the heritage area has really come to focus on since that original designation in 2009. Now, with that designation, there came an opportunity. There are a couple of universities in our region, MTSU and Delta State University, that are also home to national heritage areas. And that is not normal. Heritage areas are most often administered by a nonprofit, although some fall under state government. Gullah Geechee, which runs along the coast of Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, is governed by a federal commission, although it is run by a nonprofit organization for daily operations. But it was an opportunity to have Muscle Shoals housed at the university. And then there were conversations about how the university could benefit from having the heritage area as part of campus. And so there were a lot of conversations with what Delta State had done with their heritage area and what MTSU had done with their heritage area. MTSU is home to the Tennessee Civil War National Heritage Area, which covers the entire state of Tennessee. So they have a very large landscape that they're working in. Delta State is home to the Mississippi Delta National Heritage Area. So they're exploring the history of the Delta region of Mississippi. And so one of the things that was seen as a real benefit at MTSU was the fact that they had this public history program. And that would really help to amplify the work that the heritage area was doing at MTSU, and was seen as an excellent model for what could be done at UNA. And I actually was working at MTSU when the job at UNA posted, and was lucky enough to be invited to interview. And when I started researching this region, I was pretty blown away by all of the things that had happened here, the people that are from here, Helen Keller, the fact that she was from Tuscumbia, I did not know that, the story of TVA, the story of Muscle Shoals music. And so when I had the opportunity to come in 2012 to start the public history program and had this built-in partnership with the heritage area, I knew good things were going to come of that. And so in 2012, I was the only public historian. And today we have an ever-growing number of faculty members who have at least some training in public history, or their work uses public history methodologies. So Dr. Quiros, who I'm sure many of you know, she studies civil rights, but she's also an oral historian. So a lot of her research is conducted through interviews and talking to people that participated in the movement. And then we have people who are trained as public historians. Dr. Dempsey actually has a PhD from MTSU in public history. Dr. Jacobson, who joined us, he's going into his 4th year. He has a degree in history and public history. Taylor Desloge, who will be joining us this fall, he has public history experience as well. And so the department has really made a conscious effort to build up that core group of faculty. Dr. Mikowski, of course, as well, does a lot of public history work with his documentation projects. And that has really become a priority for the department, which has made the experience for our students, and especially the experience with the heritage area and that partnership, much stronger, because we do have faculty now who are working in the 3 areas of the heritage area's focus. So my work today, I'm trained as an early American women's historian, but I rarely do any of that now. Most of my work is focused on the Tennessee River. And so I really sort of lead the effort in that area. Dr. Dempsey, his focus is on music history, and I'll talk a little bit about the Shoals Music Archive as we move forward in the presentation. So he's really focusing on that. And Dr. Jacobson does Indigenous history. And so we now have faculty who are teaching the 3 themes of the heritage area. So that integration has really helped both the heritage area and for our students. The heritage area, when I got here, was in the midst of its management planning phase. So after a heritage area is designated, it goes through a process of putting together a plan. And I'm sure many of you in this room were part of conversations or at meetings about the heritage area that helped to prioritize what kind of projects the heritage area would work on, what the goals and objectives for the organization would be. So that process was happening when I arrived. But immediately, even though the heritage area was still in the midst of that and the management plan was not officially approved until 2014, Judy Sizemore, who was the director at the time, was already launching projects in the midst of the management planning process. And one of those projects was the Roots of American Music Trail, which documents the history of Muscle Shoals music. It's actually still a driving tour that you can drive around, and most of the studios and other significant sites connected to the music story have a QR code that you can scan to learn more about those sites. Over the years, we've had many students involved in that project, but one of them, Brian Corrigan, who graduated in 2018, I believe, he has continued that work that he started as a student. He did a whole revamp of the website, did oral histories. He now does that as a consultant for the heritage area on top of his full-time job with the University of Mississippi. And that, I think is a project that really shows having the benefit of students, right, but also having the benefit of the heritage area there to provide that long-term support for the project. Our students have also contributed to the heritage area in many other ways. The heritage area blog, and some of you in the room, Lee especially, has also written for the heritage area blog. They have a series called History Mysteries that students participate in. They've done documentary projects. They've done other social media series. Students have worked on a lot of educator resource packets for local sites, but also on the themes of the heritage area and particular pieces of the story. They've worked on Encyclopedia of Alabama entries under the heritage area's sort of umbrella. Other public programs and exhibits, and we'll talk about some of those exhibits. They've also worked on lots of on-cell tours, those digital tours like the Roots of American Music Trail. They have worked with the heritage area on a number of different National Register of Historic Places nominations, including Fame Studios, which was listed at the national level of significance, and one of our students participated in that project. The Sononer Historic District Update, which Brian Murphy led. He also did a nomination for the Eastman House in Cherokee. The DeSoto State Park nomination, which has been a 10-year project. We're hopefully coming to the end of that, but that will be the second state park listed on the National Register. We were trying to be the first, but unfortunately, you don't always get what you want. Just getting all of our ducks in the row. DeSoto is a big park with a really interesting history, and so you're documenting the story of the CCC's construction of the park and having to document all of the features on the landscape. And one of the things that I've learned about student projects is, you have students only for a short amount of time, and they go on and graduate and leave you. And so, having students that have the skills to pick up where one student left off can be a challenge. So that has certainly taken longer than we anticipated, but almost done. McFarland Heights is another example of a project where we had public history students, I think 5 or 6 that contributed to that nomination before Brian Murphy wrapped it up as part of his degree program as well. So the heritage area, because there's often funding available for students through internships or graduate assistantships, it's really allowed them to have opportunities that they may not have been able to have otherwise. So hiring summer interns, having graduate assistants during the year. Without the heritage area there, it would have been more challenging to give all of these students all of that experience. Now, I wanted to talk about a couple of the projects that students have really been heavily engaged in. And one of the first that we worked on was the Sulphur Creek Trestle Project, which was funded by the American Battlefield Protection Program. And this is over in Limestone County in Elkmont. And this was a grant that we got in 2015 from the National Park Service to update the National Register nomination. The National Register has gone through an evolution over time since it started in the 1960s. And a lot of sites that were listed during the early period, 60s, 70s, even into the 80s, the goal was to get as many things that were historically significant listed on the register. But that meant that a lot of those early nominations didn't have the depth or breadth of the nominations that we get today, which are sometimes almost feel like a book project, if not at least an article project. They're very in-depth. You're really thinking about how the story fits into different themes in our history and what criteria it falls under. But the original Sulphur Creek Trestle, I would have to look back at the actual nomination, but I think it was like 7, maybe 8 pages long total. That included the map, included the historical significance, included the site description, and I think the one that we completed, I should have looked this up, is over around 40 or 50 pages today. So we added a lot of depth to that narrative. We also expanded the boundaries. Has anyone ever been over to Sulphur Creek Trestle? It is private property, unfortunately, and luckily the property owners were kind enough to let us go onto the property. But it was the fort that guarded the bridge, as you can guess, over Sulphur Creek, which was controlled by the Union in 1864 until Forrest came through, and he actually captured a lot of the USCT troops that were stationed there. Very fascinating story. It's really part of his movement to try to break supply lines and really sort of take over the railroad. And really interesting landscape. There is a house built right in the middle of the fort site. But I thought it was really wonderful that the property owners recognized, yes, they built their house in the middle of the site, but really wanted to have that story preserved. And they've done a remarkable job of maintaining the site. And I always tell my students, you know, not everything can be a museum, not everything can be a historic site. The best case scenario for a lot of sites is to have an owner who recognizes the significance and tries to preserve either the building or the landscape. That's just the reality of the situation. So they've done an excellent job of preserving it. And so I wanted to highlight this project because I think one of the things that it represents is the way that public historians work across disciplines. And so on this project, it was a joint project between the Department of History and Department of Geography. And we also had a student from the Visual Arts program that was part of building out the website. We had ROTC students who came out and walked around and helped us interpret the landscape. So it was a great project that brought people and students from many different disciplines together. And I think we often get siloed in universities and forget that in the real world, right, we have to collaborate and work together to make these projects come to fruition. And so we always try to create those opportunities for our students to work with and engage with students in other disciplines as well. And so the National Register nomination was updated, the boundaries were expanded, the story was expanded in the nomination, and that's really the most important thing for the National Register. It doesn't really do much at the federal level. You know, they're not going to tell you not to, you know, bulldoze the fort or, you know, tear down a house. That control comes much more at the local level and sometimes at the state level. But the important thing is that the story is documented, right? And so people understand the significance of the site, which helps in many cases sort of hinder development or you know, other adverse effects on the site. So a great project and one of those early ones for the public history program. We've also had students work on a number of publication projects, and then as a department, the public historians in the department have also worked on a number of projects. As Lee mentioned, my name is on the Florence book and the Images of America, Tennessee River, and Northwest Alabama. and Brian's name. I didn't mean to cut it off, but his name is next to mine on the bottom. But these were such a group effort. All of these projects were a collaboration between multiple students. For the Florence book, Clint Alley, who used to be at the public library, Jesse Brock, Wes Garman, did a lot of the research and identified images at the public library's collection, at UNA's collection as well. The Tennessee River in Northwest Alabama, Brian Murphy was a student when we worked on this project. And then Brian Corrigan, who's the one that was also continues to work on the Roots of American Music Trail, he was involved in that and conducting image research. So we try to bring students into our projects to help them build their CVs, help them get that experience. And you know, a lot of these projects that we're doing personally wouldn't be possible without them. We do have 2 new projects that have come out of the department. Dr. Dempsey just was the visual curator, archivist for a new book about Johnny Cash. It has all of the lyrics to his songs, lots of incredible photographs. So Brian was part of that project. And then he and I have essays in a new book called Branching Out the Public History of Trees, which was a delight to work on. He wrote about a stand of trees in Cleveland, Mississippi called Old Hickory, and I wrote about the American Chestnut Foundation and their use of memories of the tree to help mobilize and motivate volunteer efforts. So sometimes we are working on projects that are more solo projects, but a lot of the work that we're doing as faculty, we try to bring in students as much as we can. One of the longest running projects that the department has been a part of in partnership with the Heritage Area and Abraham Rowe, a local photographer, is Hidden Spaces. It's been one of my favorite projects that we've gotten to work on. And it started back in 2017. And actually, Dr. Dempsey, that was his first year at UNA. And he came up with the idea for the project. And it has taken us to many different exciting, interesting places over the years. Basically, the premise of the project is to help tell stories of lesser known places around the heritage area, but also to tell the stories of the people who call the heritage area home. We had a whole sort of sub-series called Choosing Here back in, I think, 2018, 2019, where we interviewed people who had grown up here, who had left and come back, people who chose to move here, people who had never left Northwest Alabama, about what the region means to them and why the story and the history is so important to share and preserve. We've also done some road trips. If you've been over to Florence Lauderdale Tourism anytime soon, you can actually pick up a copy of the Jackson Military Road trip map, and it's got a playlist of Muscle Shoals music that you can download, but it highlights significant historical locations along the route, but it also has fun places to eat, especially good food along the route of the military road, quirky little stores that you can stop in. And so a lot of the project has been online or we've done exhibits, but the map idea I thought was a great one to help people get out and explore these places on their own and help them to see the significance of these landscapes. I think one of the projects that I think has really grown in remarkable ways that sort of came out of a Hidden Spaces small project is what's happened with the village school. So that was 2017. It was part of the Hidden Spaces project that year. We also then began working with the Heritage Area and what became the Village School Foundation on thinking about the future of the school, how it could be used. We did a program with the Alabama Historical Commission on sort of imagining what the future of the school could be. I had a concussion that day, so I could not be there, or I was there for a little while and then I had to leave. But out of that really was born the nonprofit organization that now is caring for the school. And if you've not been over there in a while, highly recommend going and checking it out when they have an event, because the work that they've done is incredible. Not just in painting, having the exterior painted and the roof fixed, but all of the work that they're doing on the interior, repairing the plaster, is pretty remarkable, and it's mostly a volunteer effort. I think they did just get another grant from the Historical Commission. So I love to see that. The Historical Commission clearly sees the value in that site, and it's such a beautiful space. So we've really tried with the Hidden Spaces project. Sometimes, we go and explore a place and that's all that comes of it, is a beautiful collection of images and stories from people that we've talked to. But we also try, if there's an opportunity, to expand our engagement with the project as a result of one of these Hidden Spaces efforts. We try to do so. We did a whole project over in Old Town in Decatur that started with the Hidden Spaces, drop in and document this neighborhood. It turned into a digital walking tour that's signed around the neighborhood, and working on some other pieces of that as well with their efforts to establish the Civil Rights Museum focused on the Scottsboro boys over there as well. So it's been a great way to help our students connect to the community and provide resources and skills that can help move projects forward. And it's been an amazing opportunity for me, as since I'm not from around here, right, to really get out and really explore the back roads and all of these really interesting pieces of our story. We've also worked on a number of projects that are housed at the university in partnership with the Visual Arts program. The history department has put together 4 mural projects. The 4th one is up here. It's about Kilby. But we've got the nursing program mural is in the top right. The mural that they did about Wendell Wilkie Gunn's story in the top left. In the bottom right is the mural that students did for the Year of the UNA Woman. And then the bottom left is the most recent one, Tears and Triumphs, which is the story of Northwest Alabama's first peoples. And these projects, like some of the other projects with the heritage area, have given students the experience of working as part of an interdisciplinary team, which has often been more challenging than they anticipated. And it's taught them a lot about project management, how to work with the community stakeholders, especially for the most recent mural, the Tears and Triumphs. We had indigenous representatives that were part of the process in terms of how the story was being told, how the mural was designed. And so it gives students, again, that real world experience that they can carry with them once they leave UNA. And Dr. Jacobson led the effort on this, the Tears and Triumphs. The other 4 have been led by Dr. Dempsey. So great example, again, of that interdisciplinary collaboration. We've also done a lot of projects that are not fixed in a space like the UNA projects are. Students have worked on a variety of traveling exhibits that have moved around the heritage area. They've worked on exhibits about the Tennessee River, on women of the heritage area, which was a lot of fun to do. And documenting the story of all of these amazing women who have done pretty incredible things that we don't often hear about in the history of Northwest Alabama. They've also contributed to exhibits for Project Threadways, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, about textile history. Clayton Davis, who is a graduate of our program, just led the effort on the Memphis and Charleston Railroad Bridge exhibit. That was part of the process of nominating that to the National Register. And then students have contributed to the Hidden Spaces exhibits as well, which I think we're up to 5 of those. So students have had the opportunity to actually, with that one, really make a public exhibit. We're not involved typically in the actual hanging of the exhibit, but they're making a lot of decisions about what goes into the exhibit, writing the text for the exhibit. And so that's giving them, again, a lot of skills that can translate out into the real world as they go into jobs in museums or archives. How do we tell the story around these projects that we're working on to the community, and how do we invite them in to also be part of those projects? So thinking about how can we make them interactive. Community programs and events are part of that, but I think we're going to see some more interesting things in terms of community engagement coming around these projects in the future. It's too bad Dr. Mikowski is not here, because I wanted to highlight all of the incredible work that he's done with students in documentation projects. We've had some students that were involved somewhat with the cemetery group, but they've also done a lot of other projects with Dr. Mikowski over the years. The picture on the left is down at the Overton Family Cemetery at the Bear Creek Education Center, so we were able to map that cemetery. They also mapped the Coffee Cemetery over by the Walmart and helped to get listed to the Alabama State Cemetery Registry. And of course, when we go to Scotland, which I'll talk about momentarily, we're actually contributing to the Historic Environment Scotland's national database of sites. And so we've documented 5 sites now with them. So students are taking what they learned here, contributing to a national archive of historic sites, and then coming back with the skills that they learned during that experience to hopefully be able to do more projects here locally. There's also been other grant-funded projects that have happened over the years. The civil rights struggle in the Shoals was funded by a National Park Service grant, and this was led by Drs. Dempsey and Quiros, and this is the Armistead Cemetery. The project involves students in a number of ways in sort of building out an online archive of newspaper articles. They also conducted oral history interviews. The project was also documented by Abraham Rowe. So there's an amazing collection of images connected to the story of civil rights in the Shoals as a result. And there's also videos as well on the website. So again, when we're thinking as public historians, how do we tell a story? How do we think about what we call the interpretive mix, all the different ways that we can take one story and share it, through videos, through oral histories, through exhibits. That allows for the greatest level of public connection and interaction with the story. And so projects like this that help students to see that, again, I'm going to keep saying that, benefit them when they leave us at UNA and go on and work professionally. Another project that we have had many students involved with over the years is Project Threadways, which started as a collaboration between the Heritage Area, Alabama Channon, and the University of Mississippi's Center for the Study of Southern Culture. It has grown to include many other people and organizations over the years. University of North Carolina is now involved. They have an incredible oral history collection that the Threadways interviews will be going into. And it's really helping us to think about the long story of textile production, primarily focused here in Alabama, but we're also having conversations with people around the country and around the world about what the future of textiles looks like. I think it's really interesting here in Northwest Alabama, because you can trace it, right? This cotton that's grown in the field all the way through to the finished products that were coming out of our mills or out of TJ's t-shirts, in the more recent past. And I think textiles are something that we kind of take for granted, or not kind of, but we do really take for granted. All of the work that goes into producing them, and the work that Alabama Channon has done in terms of preserving handcraft traditions is a really important part of this story. And so students have been involved in conducting oral histories, transcribing oral histories, which with AI has gotten so much easier now. Back in the olden days, they would have to listen to the interview and be typing. Now you can put it into AI, and they just have to check to make sure that it's correct. But so they're using technology too. Historians are often not known for their use of technological tools. So we really try to stress that with our students, especially in our digital history class and our digital collections management. We want students to be literate in the tools that are out there to help preserve and share these stories. Students have also helped with the annual Threadways Symposium, also have built out a FiberShed database, which basically is a giant sort of spreadsheet of people, organizations that are working in textiles across the South. And they've also, again, helped with exhibits as well. One of the newest and I think most exciting projects on the horizon for the public history program is the Shoals Music Archive, which will be housed at UNA. They just officially announced it just a couple months ago. And I think one of the things that is challenging, Lee mentioned the lack of a Lauderdale County archive. We have a lack of a Colbert County archive. But we have all of these incredible stories, right, of people in our community, and how do we think about preserving this facet of them, of that music story. So the Shoals Music Archive will be a place where people can donate, or they can let us digitize pieces of their collections. And I think it's going to be a great way to make sure that the history that we are creating here stays here, right? A lot of times what happens if there's no logical home for people to donate their collections, some of it may go to MTSU Center for Popular Music, some may go to other music archives, some may go to the Alabama Music Hall of Fame, which is great, right? That helps to spread the story of Muscle Shoals music, but it'll be really nice to have a collection here at the university that people can, leave their music stories too. All of these images are from the Shoals Music Census. So Abraham Rowe, as you can tell, we've worked with him a lot in a lot of different capacities over the years, both with the Heritage Area and the Public History Program. But this is the second year he's done this. And what he's doing is trying to photograph 100 musicians, each Handy Fest. So he's been out and about taking pictures of everyone and getting a short interview with them as well. So that will all become part of the Shoals Music Archive. He's been documenting Handy with the Heritage Area, I think since 2019. So all of those images and interviews will go into the collection as well. All of the Roots of American Music Trail interviews, oral histories are going into the collection. So a lot of legwork has already been done in documenting the history of the story here, but we want to make sure that we're reflecting the distant past, right? W.C. Handy's story, all the way through to the height of Muscle Shoals music, and David Hood and the Swampers and Rick Hall's story, but then looking ahead right to the future of Muscle Shoals music as well, with people like Jay Burgess and the Pollies and Billy Allen, and making sure that we're preserving this story as it is unfolding. One of the projects that I've been really engaged with since 2019 has been the Tennessee Riverline, which is a project that originated at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. It was a student idea in a landscape design studio class, and it's about activating the Tennessee River as a recreational resource. We have more state, federal, public land along the Tennessee River, then I think is, if you count the river itself, bigger than a lot of national parks. So really creating a framework for communities to work together to help leverage that as an asset. When TVA was formed in 33, one of the goals was to also, in addition to generating power and all of those really important things, part of it is also was focused around recreation, right, and creating a recreation economy. And they've done great work over the years, and they're a principal partner on the Riverline project. But this is now getting communities to really think about not just what's happening in their own community, but how can we work together along all 652 miles of the Tennessee River to create a cohesive recreational landscape, but also how can we work together to tell the story of the Tennessee River. So I'm in the midst of a interpretive plan right now for the Tennessee Riverline that includes a brief 30-page history of the Tennessee River. There's so many stories to tell, and there's not really been a book about the Tennessee River as a whole since Donald Davidson's books in the 40s, and he was not a historian. I mean, he did a lot of great work, but he was a faculty member in the English department at Vanderbilt. So it's been amazing for me to dig in to these stories and think about how do we, for the Riverline, how do you as an organization tell these stories, but then how can communities take these incredible stories and think about developing that interpretive mix. So doing documentaries, doing interpretive signage, doing public programs, exhibits, all of these things. So the plan will be a resource both for the organization and for these Tennessee River communities. And we've had a lot of students involved in this project as well. I was an Appalachian Teaching Project Fellow for 2 years and organized 2 classes that were focused about helping communities. We worked primarily in Moulton and Cortland, think about how recreation initiatives like the Tennessee Riverline could help their community and what they really wanted from these organizations and how they could leverage their cultural assets and their history to create an experience that people will want to come and have. And so we had students, again, interdisciplinary. I think that is so important. We had students from public history, from sports and recreation management, from geography, from business, from interior design, all working together on coming up with ideas for Moulton and Cortland. So heavy student involvement there. I've had students working on parts of the interpretive plan now for a couple years. I teach a class on the Tennessee River now, and so they've been helping us brainstorm interpretive themes for the river's story. And then this fall, I'll actually do 2 classes really focused on the river, one for undergrads and one for grads, and they'll be developing content for the Riverline to share on their website and for social media as well. So giving students that ability to build their portfolio and really have something solid when they go on in their professional lives. We also do fun things and get to take students to exciting places. Susan was able to join us this time in Scotland. She can tell you how awesome it was, and you'll hear from Mindy, I think, in October. But these study abroad and then our in the States programs are called Study Away. These have connected students to incredible opportunities, from going to Malta with Dr. Lowe to work on his projects there, to mapping a historic cemetery in Germantown. We've had students who have done those opportunities, and then the study abroad program to Scotland is now our longest running study abroad trip. It just celebrated its 10th anniversary, so we've taken students 4 times over to work with Historic Environment Scotland. This is the National Preservation Agency in Scotland. It's like, if people came here, they would be working with NPS, right, staff. And we've documented, again, 5 historic sites that go into their online database which is called Trove. And so it says University of North Alabama, right, on those pages. And that helps us, right, in terms of sort of name recognition, not just in the region, but now internationally. It also helps give our students an incredible experience. A lot of them don't have the opportunity to travel a lot. We normally have at least one student who's not flown before. We had one this time. We had another student who the only other time she had flown was traveling to Washington, D.C. with me with the Appalachian Teaching Project a couple years ago. A lot of students who have never traveled out of the Southeast. And for them, that experience of going and seeing a whole different world is so mind-opening. And it gives them a lot of ideas, a lot of skills and tools to bring back here to our community. And that's another thing that we stress a great deal in getting our students out, making professional connections. For a while, when I was in the department the first time, there was a joke at the Alabama Historical Association and the Alabama Association of Historians that it was me and my little ducklings, because I would always have, 5 or 6 students with me at those conferences, because they need to get out, right? They need to be making connections. They need to be presenting. One of our students was hired at the Alabama Department of Archives and History as a result of a conversation that he had at the Alabama Historical Association with Steve Murray, the director. So getting students out, whether it's to conferences or getting them out to different historic sites, museums, archives, that's really important for them, because you never know what one conversation can do for your future. And so we really, really emphasize that. Dr. Jacobson is always taking his students. Actually, 3 of those pictures are from Dr. Jacobson's field trips with his students. The bottom left is from Salt Lake City. We had 3 students who went out to the National Council on Public History with us 2 years ago. And so we try, right, to help our students make those really important professional connections, and they've through working with us have been able to present at a number of different conferences. We also send our students out as interns and volunteers, whether in Scotland, this is at the Crannog Center in 2023, or to local museums. We've had students intern at the Space and Rocket Center, at Belmont, at the Alabama Music Hall of Fame, at the Florence Arts and Museums, Oakville Indian Mound, Jesse Owens, the Shoals Music Archive. We had students contribute to TVHS, to the journal. Jesse Johnson was able to do that as a project. So we really believe, right, to give our students the experience that they need to go on to succeed, but also to give back to their community. That's so important, right, for public historians and just good people in general, right? Being able to demonstrate what they're learning, but also to just show that they care and they support their local history is a really important part of our program. And I will say, to wrap it up, we have had great success as a result of all of these things. This is just a very partial list that I knew off the top of my head of where our students are today. So Alabama Department of Archives and History, all the way down to the Wisconsin Veterans Museum. They are working at state historical societies in Utah, right? At historic sites in Fort Wayne, Indiana. A lot of students stay in the state, and we've had students at the Alabama Department of Archives and History. We don't have anyone at the Historical Commission right now, but we have had a graduate there. She has since moved on and works for the city of Birmingham in their Historic Preservation Office. One of our graduates is the archivist at the Huntsville-Madison County Public Libraries Archives. So we really are helping our students, through all of these projects, which often feels overwhelming to coordinate all of these, but it really gives our students that edge when they go out and they leave us, which is always hard. We only have the master's students for 2 years. A lot of our undergrads, we'll have them for 3 years once they declare a public history minor, sometimes 4, but we have them for such a short time, but they always make us proud when they leave and go on to bigger and better things. And a lot of them stay too. Florence Arts and Museums, lots of UNA grads there now. So thank you, and thank you, Lee, for inviting me to share this with y'all. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.